Welcome to Reunite with Self podcast. I'm your host, Rukan. Here, we will be discovering and unraveling what is truly holding you back. We will put the puzzle together and give you clarity on how and what you can do to create massive shift in your life so you start creating the life you always envisioned for yourself. There is no more waiting. Whether it is liberating from dysfunctional family patterns or parenting tools and tips that actually make the difference, we will be diving into the truth and core of things that are simple and which yet no one talks about. I will be sharing with you all the things that would have changed my life massively if I heard any one of these episodes. A new world is awakening, and true bliss, harmony, and peace is possible on this earth. And my mission is to bring you closer to that, one step at a time. In this safe space, I will hold your hand and give you courage and certainty that you can shift anything and everything in your life. It is time we break the pattern. Whether you want to be the parent you never had or make a shift in your life so you don't play small any longer, you will find the support and guidance in this space. My intention is for you to find answers within yourself while you listen to this podcast, so you feel the bliss of reuniting with your true essence, with self, with so much love and compassion and courage. From my heart to yours, let's keep it rockin'. My gorgeous listener, welcome to another episode on Reunite with Self. I'm so grateful you are here. It's going to be a powerful episode. As I always say, they're always very powerful for me. I always pick topics that really would have made a change, a shift in my life if I listened to any of the episodes. So I always pick the topic that would be very powerful for me if I listened to them before my line in the sand moment, which was about a year and a half ago. So today's topic is big 3 steps if you had narcissistic tendency in family, meaning big 3 steps for liberation, to liberate yourself, to realize your dreams, to create your incredible life, to create a fulfilling, incredible life that you have in your vision, in your heart, in your soul. If you had any narcissistic tendency in your family, whether it was really like narcissistic personality disorder in any of your parents or even other family members, or it doesn't have to be at all to have a huge impact in your life, it is as powerful if you had narcissistic tendency behavior in any of your parents, both parents maybe in very different ways, or how like one was enabling a lot. Like we will work through all of this stuff in this podcast. I am here just for this stuff so that you start creating your incredible life, because you can. And the reason that you had any kind of narcissistic tendency in your family is really for you to come closer, like come to love, come closer to light. It's all for you to, it really only happened, and it's happening just for you to be able to come closer to love. This is what I truly believe. And so I'm just going to lay out the 3 big steps that are crucial for you to start creating your incredible life. Like, these are the steps that you cannot miss. These are the steps that you cannot, what would you call it? Like you have to take these steps in order to start creating your incredible life. And these are usually the things that we are not taught. We don't hear people discuss about this. We don't hear people discuss about this, about their own lives. I was just doing breath work today, so I might be a little, I don't know. I ate things that would ground me, And I feel like this is a great time for me to do this podcast because I feel like I'm really truly channeling right now. So I just set to record, and something very important, like when I say that we're not taught this, it's not something that someone can teach you, but you experience in life. I always talk about if we had more authentic people in our circles, communities, families, like family in the larger, it doesn't have to be even like blood family, but, the people that you would see as you were a child around your family. If we had people in these circles that were truly being authentically themselves and talking about their own stories, true stories, that would require, for sure, 100%, if they were being themselves, that would require courageous action, very courageous action that would entail uncertainty, a lot of bold action, a lot of courageous action while they were like maybe peeing their pants, but they were still going for it. And the miraculous things that they were exposed to afterwards, that they received and experienced afterwards. And this would have been amazing for us. And we need leaders like this in communities. We need leaders in families. I believe we need like only one leader in a family can change the whole spectrum, like where that lineage is going. It only takes one. It doesn't have to be like one in every family unit. It only takes one person in that family circle, that one leader, that they would inspire, that highly sensitive, empathic, intuitive child, teenager, whatever, that they would pave their own ways looking at that story. And I'm gonna make another episode on this again, but we had this, I don't know how many episodes ago, I think 2 episodes ago maybe. Please go back to it if it resonates with you somehow. We talked about how supporting the gaslighted in family truly saves their lives. I did a Turkish episode on this recently as well. It's life-changing. I believe you truly save that person's life if you support the gaslighted in family with your smallest effort, smallest action. Maybe it requires some kind of courage depending on the story. But this truly changes everything. And what I am learning in my path, in my journey, is that and I'm going to talk more into this because my intention is to make things much more simple, like getting to the core of things for me to be able to guide you and share with you what it actually is all about. So you can, make that shift much more easier, and then we can create better communities is the goal actually. What I have experienced, what I am learning and unraveling is that although I talk a lot about narcissistic behavior, narcissistic tendency, all the things that like narcissism in family and how it affects people with, if it affects everyone, but affects people differently. The one person who has trauma chooses narcissism, and the other, maybe going through similar or even worse trauma, chooses to have empathy, love, compassion, open hearts, and feels the pain, or maybe has challenged to feel the pain, but they stay empathic, intuitive, compassionate, and their higher self is telling them to open their hearts, and they work on that maybe throughout their whole life. Maybe that's their work. There is like, of course, different stories, but I believe that there's like, we can say almost 2 types of people. Like when I look at trauma, I feel like, the narcissist is their excuses, their trauma. But what I have seen in my life is that it's not the cause, but it's the BS bullshit. Everyone has trauma. everyone has different types of trauma, and children are so vulnerable, and the way that they're affected by trauma is huge. Like, very small moments affect them so highly. And this is human nature. And this is what makes us human. It doesn't make you weak or strong or blah, 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 blah. That's just bullshit. But I really believe that when I look at people, when I see any kind of narcissism, which I do all the time, when I see someone who has narcissistic behavior, I know that they've been through something and I can see through it easily. And now my intention is to use it for my highest good, not to abandon myself or self-sabotage in any way, or enable that narcissism or accommodate that narcissism, or shut up for that, shut up for it, or, silence myself for any patriarchy or that dark energy, or, none of that stuff. Like, my intention now is to see through it, but still be intentional, like not abandon myself in any way, be clear, be centered, and know my truth. Like, be certain of my truth now. Now I can differentiate easily. This is narcissism. This is BS, like whatever. But what I wanted to say here, I don't want to get off track. What I wanted to say here is that I see that, and I've just experienced this too. Like, I see that this person has narcissistic tendency. There's a couple of stories I want to tell you, but but I also see maybe in that family, there's someone else, and maybe they're having even a harder time with other people. They're having maybe, more challenges, maybe more magnified challenges than the other person, but they're choosing to be empathic. They're choosing to be like, it's like either you choose narcissism or you choose to be intuitive and empathic and compassionate. And you choose love because you know what pain feels like and you don't want other people to feel that pain. It's like your intention is for you not to hurt other people. That's your intention. And you're open to the fact that you can hurt other people, and you would be open to listening and repairing and all of that. Why did I come here? Let me back up. So what I have realized in my life, I wanted to go into this in this episode for some reason, but it's just something I realized today in something I experienced. I had a very vulnerable conversation with someone. It was so beautiful. And I was like crying for the other person's pain. And they were telling me a story in such a beautiful way. And that's how I believe I tell my stories too. Like, the really heartbreaking, challenging, maybe painful story. But you see someone, the way they tell a story. And this person was telling me their story in such a loving way. And also, it was coming from a place of love, where some other person would tell the exact same story in a much different way, and society would not call it, would not, call it anything, would call it normal or whatever, And I was having a challenging moment, and it all went because this person was so they were so beautiful in the way they were sharing with me something vulnerable about themselves, like their story, that I just saw that there's people like this too. I was having a challenging moment with a client, like nothing to do with, my personal life, but just having this conversation brought me higher. And I remembered something. The way I tell my story is, and what I experienced when I was in Turkey, I had this very challenging moment in my life a year and a half ago, like 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago now, that really was a catalyst, was a huge catalyst in my life, changed my whole life. Something so huge, big that someone else would call, different names. That actually saved my life, literally saved my life. And after a very painful, like emotionally, physically, spiritually, it was like tough times. And then not tough times. I don't want to call it tough times, but it was like a big moment for me. It was very challenging, but I knew all along, like going through all of it, like in every second, even in my most painful second, I knew that it was happening for me. I knew there was a reason behind it. I knew like God loved me, universe loves me, like there is something behind it. It's not happening just by coincidence. It's not happening to me. It's not just something random. So I don't like to, play the victim for this. It's empowering when you know it's happening for you. And the challenge I was having when I went back to Turkey, I'm originally from Turkey, if you don't know. I went back to Turkey and I was sharing my story from a vulnerable place in the way that I'm talking about this other person who was sharing with me their own story today, which made me like cry with love, not with pain. I was like crying tears of love. And I was telling them that I was crying not because I pity them or, I'm sorry for them or anything like that. It's the opposite. I was crying with like heart opening, like expansiveness. I was crying for that reason. And the big challenge that I was and now I know why I went to this. Now I understand. The big challenge I had when I went back to Turkey with people that, they would claim they really love me. They would claim they're my closest. That's what I would think, 3 years ago, that they would have my back, blah, blah, blah. But, it's these moments I was shocked because as I was sharing my vulnerable story, I felt alone because the person sitting across from me, which I can see through like everything because I'm an empath, I know what they're going through. Everybody goes through things or it can be something that you're working on from your past. But I know these people, like they're going through stuff. And whether they acknowledge it, whether they truly being courageous about it, whether they're healing it, whether they're intimate even in their relationships to share that, like it's not my place, but I see now truly like what was happening. I was feeling so alone as I was sharing my story because I believe life is juiciest and fulfilling when people have stories to tell each other. It's not like, I don't mean to say in every conversation you share, oh, you had this and now I had this like experience. It's not about that, but it's just, I believe that's the consciousness of, not separation, but oneness, because it all comes back to love. Like every story, everything comes back to love. Whatever we're going through, it's witnessing someone working through something and seeing the love in that and sharing that moment is the juiciest thing for me. I think the juiciest thing for me, and I would come back from these meals or whatever gatherings, and I would feel so empty. And this happened to me a lot, like many, many times. And I just I couldn't understand why I was feeling this way, because I was definitely not feeling this way with everyone, with like highly like compassionate, loving, open-hearted people that would work on themselves, people that work on their shadows, like go to the being more courageous, like doing the harder work. I would have a completely different, like a very connecting experience. And with others that would maybe living from a more surfacey level, I was seeing that even sharing your challenging moments doesn't make any connection. Like it was not doing anything for me. Maybe they were being inspired by the way that I was looking at things, or they were, I don't know, or maybe they were entertaining themselves. Like, I don't know, but it was like so fake. It was so fake. And it was so like, I would never, when they go through something really challenging, or when they're ready to face their challenges in their lives, I know that I would never make them feel alone, because we're in this together and we're all going through something all the time. Like whether it is us, whether it is our lineage, whether it is our like past lives, whatever, or that day. But what I want to say here is that we need leaders in our communities, and the juiciest and the most fulfilling conversations you have are with people who tear up when they talk about something that they have courageously and in a very humble way, with grace, they have experienced something and they have seen the truth behind it, like why it was happening. And they gained more strength afterwards. They came closer to love afterwards. Those are the relationships I live for. Those are the friendships and connections I live for. And anything other than that, I was just like, what's so interesting is that my experience wasn't as sad as those conversations. It was really sad. And so some people choose to live on the surface. They don't want to go deeper. They choose to be narcissistic or choose to have narcissistic tendencies. And others want to do the work because they truly want to be happy. They truly want to have a fulfilling life, not a happy, like from an egoic level. That's not happy, but not like just having like egoic pleasure or feeding the ego. I'm not talking about that. Never. You know this, but I just want to say, but there are the other ones that choose love even more, no matter what they went through. And because of what they went through, they choose love even more. They're even more compassionate with others. They have even more empathy with others. They care even more. They have low tolerance for inequality or injustice or other people's pain, whatever kind of pain, but they have less tolerance for that, and they know how it feels for others. They are not so concerned about what they're getting in that situation, if they're feeling safe or if they're fine. Like that's the narcissistic one. That's the narcissistic side. And so today I'm going to share with you 3 big steps that you need to take, you must take. I wish I took ages ago. I don't wish to have changed my story. Actually, I am very grateful for exactly the story that I have. I'm truly grateful for it because it brought me exactly to this moment. I'm truly grateful, but I know that if I had taken any one of these, like not anyone, all of these, if I took all of these 3 big steps in my life, I would be living a very completely different life right now. So I'm just going to lay them out and then we're going to walk through them. We're going to talk about them because they create the momentum in your life. So the first big step is clarity, creating and holding and having clarity for your life. I don't just mean to say having clarity for what you want or where you're going to. That's very, very, very important. But what I want to say here is when we talk about narcissism or narcissistic behavior in parents, in family, is that you having clarity for what the F has been happening, what that system was doing to you, what was happening systematically. It wasn't just random things, although it looks like that, because narcissistic behavior is never linear. It has to be the breadcrumbs, the confusion, the back and forth, the given and the taking. Like, it has to be confusing for you to not to have the clarity. Confusion is a big part of people who had hidden narcissistic tendency in family. Confusion is even stronger in people if they had narcissistic behavior from their parents or caregivers, or in their families, if the narcissism was hidden. So creating and having and holding that clarity for you, like what happened, what actually happened, how it affected you, what it cost you, what it truly cost you up until today, what it truly cost from your life, what you could have lived, what you could have experienced, what you could have been, you could have right now, what you could have built that life if you saw this, ages ago, or if you didn't have narcissistic behavior in your family. This clarity, like what it does to you, and if what it's doing right now, how it will continue in a very hidden way, in a different way now that you are whatever age you are. It changes. It has to change. It's usually not the exact same thing. There are many things that you don't remember about your childhood. I'm someone that I remember everything, like visually, I remember everything I have experienced. But even in that, I realize that I don't remember all the things. There is no way. I want to remember and heal more and be conscious of more and heal the child in me, the child versions of me, those parts of me. That's my intention. But what happened was bigger than what you remember today, for sure. Because we have a tendency to minimize things and hide things and forget about things and not look at things when we are children. It's the way we can cope with it. It's our egoic survival mechanism, and it was there to really keep us safe in those moments. But now it's not necessary. Now is the time we can look at them, we can have clarity around them so that we can make a change around them. But it's very important for you to have the clarity, for you to be totally, totally honest with yourself, for you to be courageous. You are not the only one who has narcissistic tendency in your family. Just by knowing this, you are not different. You are not one of a kind. You are not an exception. It's so interesting. I always thought that narcissism was something exceptional, like it was not so common in the world, but it's very, very common. And it's very common in people who have children. So clarity is number one. You have to be courageous. You have to be super clear about what happened, why it happened, why they were doing it, what they were stealing from you. You have to be courageous and honest. You can still love them. You can still have a great relationship with them if you want to. It depends on the story, on what's happening, on the person's character, like how narcissism is playing out. And I would love to go deeper on your specific story. If you have any questions for me, you can always DM me on my Instagram, Kevela. It's in the show notes here. You can always DM me there with your own specific question, and I will do an episode based on your question. And we'll have a nickname for you, and we'll do that. I would be very happy to do specifically for your story, to tell you what you can do today, what you can actually do today to start creating your incredible life. It is possible. It was all there because you have the strength to shift all of this to your benefit and make it use it as leverage to create your incredible life. You will start using it as your leverage. It's not going to be something that you don't want to think about. It's not going to be something that you want to avoid. It's not going to be something that you feel shame around. It's not going to be something that you think you're a victim or there is something wrong with your family. You're not going to think that way. You're going to know that there is duality in the world, that light can only exist with the dark. But we need leaders. It's not the narcissism that needs to go away. Yeah, I hope that it's going to decrease in time as we work through this stuff so that we are more aware. We are more aware of who we partner with. So when we make babies, we know that what they're going to be exposed to. And of course, healing ourselves and being an example, being an inspiration to the next generations, I think is the biggest thing that we can do. So clarity is number one. It's a must. And it's the biggest, it's the first step that we need to take. Because having that clarity will set you up for success. It was a line in the sand moment for me. I saw what was happening, and it's like this dark energy of narcissism. It's not even about the person, it's not about that. It's this dark energy, and we don't want to serve that. We want to become our fullest, biggest, shiniest potential. And so clarity is number one. It requires courage, honesty, full honesty with yourself. It doesn't matter if other people believe it or not, or if they approve of, or, you can fake anything you want. So you have to be honest with yourself and not minimize anything. The second big step is then creating clarity creates momentum for you. It's then you have the strength to make huge change in your life, sustainable change, not doing once and then come. There is your life will never be the same when you make that decision. It's a moment of decision that changes your life. So after having the clarity, the second big step is setting up boundaries. And this can look many things, many different things. And it will most probably look different things for you. It's not going to be just one thing, but it will be several different things when you're setting up boundaries with people who you're exposing yourself to, how much time you spend with them, what kind of information you share with whom, what kind of topics you talk around with whom. With narcissism, you have to be very conscious, and there are so many things that you can do, and they truly make a huge shift. And setting up boundaries can look, for some people, it will be taking them from your life, not having any kind of communication with them. These will be some people. If we talk about family, these will be some of the people. Maybe you always wanted to do it, but it was, you were hesitant, you were feeling guilt, shame, etc. So you were coming back and forth, or you were maybe doing it, but from a guilty place. That makes a huge shift too. It's how you do something, why you do something, with what kind of feeling you do with something changes the outcome, changes how you feel around it. But when you're certain that this is BS, like if I spend any kind of time with this person, or if I entertain them, or if I expose myself to them, or if I share my story with them right now, my truth, any kind of information right now in my life, it's not going to serve me. It's better that I do not have any communication with this person right now. And then you would see 2 years later how you're feeling about it. Maybe you will see them, but from a very different place. We always talk about your expectation of the potentiality of that relationship. Maybe when you see them next time, you would already have start creating your true life, so that you don't need to behave in a certain way. You don't have to act in a certain way, but you can be more centered and be yourself, but not in a way that you would be yourself with your romantic partner, or with your closest friends, or with your coworkers. Not like authentically yourself in that way, but just show a part of yourself and not accommodate any kind of narcissism, so you don't abandon yourself, and thus you don't have any kind of resistance around them. You don't have any discomfort. When I say discomfort, you might have some kind of discomfort around narcissism. It doesn't have to change. Actually, it's your savior. Your body's telling you what's up with that person, but you would not have high, you wouldn't get activated, and you wouldn't have resentment so much. It changes a whole lot when you don't abandon yourself today, when you don't accommodate anything, when you don't do anything that you don't want to do. It changes a lot. So your energy and your emotions towards that person changes. So it doesn't affect you anymore like that, because you have your own boundaries, you have your own life, you're creating your own life, and you are not playing small to accommodate that. So you're not abandoning your life. You're in your own path, and they can be whatever they want. They are on their path, but you are not giving up on your authenticity and thus your life to belong, air quotes, or to be the good guy or the good girl, or to be lovable, or to fit in, or to belong, or to play safe, or to be safe around them, so they don't attack you, because you have already created that boundary where you didn't see them for 2 years. So, I'm just giving an example. It might be some people you're going to take out of your life completely. Some people you're not going to see that much for a couple of years when you're in that transition. That transition time is crucial, and it's not comfortable, but we can do hard things. It's not comfortable because it's not what you're used to. It's not what you're familiar with. What you're familiar with, most probably, if you are an empathic, highly sensitive, compassionate person, narcissistic tendency, people love to spend time around you. Of course they love to spend time around you, because you're such an empath. You know how they're feeling, so you know what they're going to laugh at. You know how they're going to feel comfortable. You know how to make them feel seen. You know how to make them feel good about themselves. You know how to have a conversation about BS stuff that you don't even care about. Like, it doesn't mean anything to you, but you just carry on these conversations and this kind of being around them. You know exactly what I mean, I'm sure, when you think about those certain people. So you have your boundaries. Or if it's someone that you want to keep in your life, you're not going to talk about certain things. You're not going to go into them, because you know what's going to happen in there. And you can be clear about this after a while. But first, it has to be quiet. You have to do it in your quiet way. You don't have to be loud about it. You don't have to create any kind of discomfort there so they're not coming at you. And I've done a couple of, like more than a couple, I guess, episodes on this, on what to do if you have narcissistic people in your life, like from family, especially what you can do. But I will continue doing more episodes on this. And so you can always DM me if you have. Just write to me like, narcissistic tendency mother doing this in this area of my life. Like, what can I do? Doesn't need to be detailed. And I would love to do an episode on that. And the third thing is, well, I was going to just lay them out, but I think I didn't go walk through them. I'm walking through them right now. The third big step that you need to take if you had any kind of narcissism in your family is exposing yourself to good stuff. So now is the time that you start being very conscious and thirsty for good stuff. You expose yourself to things that elevate your soul, elevate your energy, that you learn things from, that keeps the momentum in your life. Anything like friends, information, social media, books, anything, like feeding yourself with the good stuff now. Exposing yourself to good stuff, the bad stuff, the nasty stuff, the narcissistic stuff, you don't need anymore. That's what's familiar. Now it's the time that you expose your nervous system, your body, to the good stuff, to the compassionate stuff, to the softer side of life, to pleasure, to beauty, to safety, and things that keep you, become yourself more, like reuniting with self. I don't want to say like a better version of yourself, because the true version of yourself is the best version. So it's not like what you experience now, that is not you. When we let go of that, then you just become yourself. So you're not becoming, better, actually. You're just becoming more of yourself, your truth. And all of this, like creating, holding, having clarity, setting up boundaries, being very clear about them, even if you feel guilt, just going on with them, exposing yourself to good stuff, being very conscious of what you expose yourself to from the moment that you wake up. This leads you to take bold action. Like while you are, like that was my experience, like while I was taking bold action, I knew that I had to do all of this. So I was experiencing going after the action, going after the decisions, going after that life while I was doing all of this. It was happening at the same time. Because like I said, that decision is in one moment, so you don't even need to wait. Like that decision, that moment, your life is never going to be the same again, ever, in a very good way. And that is the moment you begin. And with that moment, you start doing all of this at the same time. But it started with clarity, for sure. That was the beginning point. Clarity, like pure clarity, was the catalytic moment in my life where that was the line in the sand. Clarity is number one, always. And always having, like, holding that clarity you will always need to go back to it. When you trip, when you have a challenging moment, you always need to go back to it. And this all, like you taking these bold actions and you being more exposed to the good stuff, your nervous system becoming familiar with the healthy things, this creates momentum in your life. Then it really starts changing. Then everything, your life becomes, truly getting closer. You start seeing the results. It's in your 3D now. It's not comfortable. It's definitely not easy, but it's all worth it. And it starts creating fulfillment in your life. You start actually really truly feeling happy with your life, because you are the one who's creating it and you are not letting leakages yeah. And I believe I'm going to do the next episode on why you can't find your passion. I see this a lot. This is a very common thing where maybe people are not really fulfilled with their lives, but they don't know where to go, like what to do. And this is not their truth. And I'm going to do an episode on this. But these 3 big steps actually creates that, clarity for you, where your passion lies. And during that journey, you start uncovering many of the different passions that you have. Like, I never thought that I would have a podcast. Like, it wouldn't even cross my mind. And I was someone who would listen to podcasts. Maybe 3 years ago, I was listening to podcasts. 3 years ago, I was listening to a lot of podcasts, I believe. And I would never think, and 2 years ago, I was listening to a lot of podcasts. I would never think that I would have a podcast. It was like that it would be something that I would want to do, that I would enjoy to do, or that would be in my path, like a part of my mission. But here we are. I am enjoying this so much. I know I'm just getting started. I'm just warming up. I'm just at I'm only beginning. This is only the beginning. And you uncover so much stuff that you're like, what your true path is, what your true mission is, why you had to go through all of that stuff, what your true strengths are that are very precious, that are your gifts. You start uncovering all of that. That becomes like you just start your journey. That means you begin your true journey. So I will leave you with this. I hope it was something like there was something that you took away from it, or some things that you took away from it. So clarity, setting up boundaries, and exposing yourself to good stuff is the way to start creating your incredible life. And I'm going to continue doing more episodes on clarity for sure, because that was like the biggest step for me. Biggest, that changed everything. Because once you have that, what to do becomes easier. Like what to do, the strategy comes to you, or not comes to you, but it's like you start seeing it inside of you. But creating clarity was the toughest part for me. That took so long to manifest. So I love you so much. I'll see you next week, and DM me if you have any questions. My IG is on the link below. I'll see you next week. Thank you. My gorgeous listener, if you had any takeaways from this episode or from this podcast in general, I would love to know. Please share this episode with a few loved ones right now. You never know how they can benefit from something so small. And please take a screenshot of this episode and share on IG, tagging me at Khewella. That is Khewella. Khewella. That is my goddess wear brand, my Instagram page. I would love to know what your takeaway was, or something you found inspirational, or a confirmation you believe in as well. That would make my day. And you can always DM me if you have a topic or a certain question in mind that you want me to talk about. And give me a 5-star rating if you feel like it. That would help this podcast immensely to get the word out. I love you. See you on the next one. I want to see you shine your brightest.